Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust and Transparency. Today I've got rather a long-winded question from our YouTube audience for someone that is thinking about selling a property. So I thought this is perfect. I'm going to press record on the camera. I'm going to go through each of the questions. There's about 8 questions total in regards to selling their property. So I'm going to get that together, go through each one, and hopefully if you are thinking about selling, you watch this video, you pick up a little bit of knowledge, wisdom, if you ever or when you ever have to sell, if you are thinking about selling, or when you do eventually sell down your portfolio, you can bookmark this one and come back to it. So without further ado, I'm going to do a desk sit one. I don't think we need to do too much of a screen share, but I'll read through the question and I'll let you guys know my thoughts. If there's anything you'd add or any questions that you have, let me know in the comments. But this is it. It says, I'm looking to sell my first property next year and I'm a little nervous. I'm worried about making a mistake, especially since I've never done this before. And I'd hate to look back and realize I missed something that could have helped me get a better result. When it comes to agents, I know there are good ones and bad ones, but I'm not a fan of the usual sales pitch and want to avoid being sold a package with gimmicks that don't really add value. I was hoping you could share some advice or even make a video on the best way to prepare before listing a home for sale. For example, they have a bunch of questions. Now, a little bit around the context, I asked a few questions back and said, where is the property? So the property is located in Seaford, Victoria. It is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-story townhouse. It's recently been updated cosmetically, so it's had new paint, electrics, carpet. It's in a quiet street. It's a walk to the beach. There's shops there. There's trains. Established value online around that $560,000 to $600,000 mark. Now, let's go through each of these questions so you guys can sort of learn from this too. Now, they said what are the pros and cons of using an agent versus selling the property yourself? Now, no offense to this person and no offense to anyone that's thinking about selling it themselves, but I don't think that is usually ever a great idea. The reason is, what you need to understand is that a real estate agent is a trained professional. They are a trained negotiator. They're a trained professional. They know their markets inside and out. They know how it works. Perfect example. And I think I might have bookmarked the clip because I wanted to make it on social. I want to make a short form video on social media. But the issue that I have with when people try to talk themselves, they just don't know what they're doing. And there was this couple that was selling in Melbourne and they've made this whole 10-part series about we're selling our own home and all that kind of stuff. It's great, but what some of those videos show is that they had no idea. They had 0 people to the first open home. And why? Because they put it at a time on a weekend where it was in prime time for families to be at the kids' sport. So something as little as that, they had no idea about. However, a real estate agent does this day in, day out. They have one, which is great. They have a database of clients that they know are looking for different types of assets. It could be buyers agents, it could be investors, it could be people wanting to buy a PPR. 1 is you're buying into that. 2 is you're buying into them just knowing the market. They've got that insider knowledge. They've been working in that particular market for hopefully years and years and years. So you're buying into that experience too. You're buying into them being a professional negotiator. They deal with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sellers on an everyday basis. So think about how good that they start to get at negotiation. If they've been in the game for, say, 5 or 10 years, how many negotiations, how many deals that they've dealt with. You think that you can do a better job yourself that's never sold a property? Apologies, but there is absolutely no chance for a good real estate agent. Don't get me wrong, there's bad ones out there, but I'm talking for the good real estate agents. They're negotiation killers. And for what they charge, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to sell this thing for $600,000, they charge 2% for $12,000. Do I think that a real estate agent can get me an extra $12,000 compared to if I did it myself? Definitely. They know the emotional games. They know the tricks of the trade. We had Scott Agate actually from our property investment course. He was an agent for about 20 years. And there's a section in that course where he goes through the tricks that real estate agents play. And even I didn't know that they played them and what they did. And it was, to me, I remember just filming that on the day of filming when we filmed that course. And I was just like, wow, there are so many just games and I don't want to call it manipulation, but it kind of is, that a real estate agent does and makes. And, their job is to get you the best offer. So I think pros and cons of using an agent, I just would not ever recommend it myself. If you're asking me in a YouTube comment section about what are the pros of me buying it myself, selling it yourself, I don't think there are many. You obviously save a bit of cost, but the risk is far greater compared to the reward. I would just get an agent. Now, you said, should I give tenants notice and wait for the property to be vacant, or would that be more attractive for an investor to have a great tenants already in place? In my personal opinion, remember, none of this is financial advice, but you've asked me for what my opinion or what I think as an investor. To me, it's always good, and check this with your real estate agent, but it is always good to have it vacated. Why? There is a very strong chance that the tenants in there don't have desirable furniture. There could be mess around, there could be bowls over the sink. It just sort of sets up anyone that walks into that property. It sets them up mentally for lower expectations. Like, you think you walk through a property and it's absolutely trash, you think, oh, this is a nightmare. Or if it's got heaps of junk in it. So ideally, in a perfect world, if I have to sell a property, I'm getting it empty. So that way it's clean, that way it's fresh, that way it can smell good. Then I have opportunities for either the staging side of things or, just being able to take really, really good, strong photos, good lighting when I don't have to deal with tenant shit. As an investor, and if you're going to market this to investors, I know that we might have a 30, 60, 90-day settlement period. So I know I've got more than enough time, and if I'm selling the property, I can give the tenants more than enough time to get that thing advertised, to get that thing up on the market for them to rent out, and so that a tenant can start the day that they own the property. So for me, that is a little bit of a no-brainer. I would always, if I'm selling it, vacating it, because again, then I cater for both tenants and people wanting to buy and live there. I don't know what type of tenants are in place, but if it's a tenant that just has a lot of junk or old furniture, I give them tenants and I give them time to vacate. So obviously check with your property manager. What is the notice period that we need to give? And I would be giving them that notice period so that when they are fully out, then I can get my photographer in there, I can get the photos done, and then I can get it on market so that when we have open markets, when we have open homes, there's not a tenant in there. That would be my recommendation. If the place is vacant, should I stage it? Is it worth the cost, and how does it impact sale? Again, very good question. This would be something that I discuss with the real estate agent. A lot of the time, the staging works well when the property sale price is higher, and you can stage it with really expensive furniture. If this is a small townhouse, it may not work well to actually stage it. It may work well to have it just empty, and so that it looks like a bigger space. If you have staging and you put furniture in there, it might actually make the space look a little bit cluttered. And your price point, 500-600K, we're not at the top end of town. We're not at the top end of market. So to me personally, it looks like you might be able to get away with not staging it, but that would be a question that I ask my real estate agent. Now, I've had a look online at Seaford. Currently, the data suggests that there is 33% renter to owner ratio. That's high. So there is a chance that you're going to get an investor. Investor doesn't really care. They just look at the floor plan, whether or not it's staged. It just comes down to the photography. Now, should I attend open homes early to observe different agents' selling styles and see how they follow up potential buyers? Are there any strategies or tips to assess an agent's selling ability during the process? Yes, good question. Now, this is what you need to do. If you're selling in Seaford, and you've either live near or you don't live near, you need to create and have a look at the market and watch the market for a few weeks, maybe even a few months. And you're going to start to see the type of real estate agents in that market. Now, there's going to be what I call buying agents, and there's going to be what are selling agents. I want to buy off agents that are buying agents. What does that mean? These are the high volume churn type of agents where you see they've got heaps of listings. You track them over a few months and you go, oh, these agents just sell things in like the first 2 weeks, meaning that they're just a volume agency. Those agents are great to buy off. Why? Because there's not too much negotiation. I can sort of position my offer in a way that suits them. They likely will put pressure on their vendor and they want to get things in and out the door. They're buying it. Good selling agents are totally different. I hate buying off them. Why? Because they'll run the full campaign. They'll run the 3-4 weeks that you need. They'll give it the time. And they're the people that they might not pop up as much in Seaford, but when you go back and have a look, you'll see that, wow, these guys actually do the right things and they give the property the time that is required for it to sell, and they also get a premium price. So you need to, I'd be making a list, monitoring the market, seeing if I can classify who the agents are and what they do. Now, when I have my list of selling agents, the really good agents, then, as you said, you want to go through unannounced, see if they rock up, see how they present the property, see what the photos are like, put your name and number down, say you're interested, see if they call you back, those sorts of things. And then you're going to have a list of all the agents that are in Seaford, you know, half or maybe there's a small little percentage that are actually really good selling agents that are actually really good, you know, a seller type agent. And then I'm going to do that test with them on open houses. That's how I would process it. It's not about who's made the most sales in the area. As I said, they could be the volume agents. It's about who's getting the best price and putting the time and effort, especially when you want to sell. Which upgrades or renovations add the most value in today's market and best to avoid? These are 2 questions for your real estate agent and your sales agent. I think if you have done fresh covers, fresh fixtures, fresh paint, you're majority of the way there. The other little thing with a townhouse might as well be air conditioning. It doesn't seem that you might be able to do any external upgrades if it's part of a strata, but I'd be asking both my property manager and my sales agent, what do you recommend? Good chance is if you've had all those things updated, it is looking super fresh, super good, up to speed, up to scratch, and it will photograph well. It might just be smaller things like air conditioning like that, or are there robes? Can we put in some built-in robes? Not too sure on the townhouse, but those would be a couple of little things in addition. You probably don't want out a $500,000-$600,000 price point. You may not want to be going out there and ripping out kitchens or bathrooms and starting again. So your real estate agent that sells and knows the profile of the buyer that is going to buy this is going to be able to tell you, look, this is going to be best marketed to, for example, investors. They only care that this thing is, you know, has had that fresh coat of paint, has had that fresh small cosmetic renovation, and that it has aircon. Perfect. I don't need to do anything. Tick. For me, I can't jump into Seaford in this video and tell you exactly what it needs. It's going to be from the real estate agent that has the buyer profile on the ground and know who is going to buy this one. Is it worth having a board out the front, my property, and tips to save on advertising? Now, for this sort of price point, again, real estate agent will suggest, but for me, I wouldn't want to make sure you pay for photography, pay for the photographer, you pay for a floor plan, and you get a signboard out the front. They're the absolute minimums, and making sure you go on domain and realestate.com. They're the absolute bare minimums. Now, they have sort of the 3D walkthroughs, which is not necessarily needed, because think about it, any investor is going to get a property manager or a buyer's agent to walk through it with their phone anyway. You've got like the 3D floor plans. I wouldn't at this price point worry about it. The videos as well, I think in this particular instance, for me personally, probably a waste of money. It's a townhouse. There's not a lot to show, and that could be a few $1,000s that you save. So as long as you get a floor plan, you get photos, and you're on both of the real estate portals, that could be enough to cover it. And a sign out the front is always a good start. They're usually pretty cheap. Real estate agent as well will have a few packages of, if you want this and those additions. I don't think you need those additions for this type of sale, so you can save money there. Is it a good idea to do my own building and pest up front and get ahead on any potential issues and fix them prior? If you did a building and pest, speaking from experience, put yourself in the investor's shoes. If I go to a property and they've already had a building and pest, already I think there's a little bit of a bias there because the building and pest is working for the owner that's trying to sell the house or the real estate agent. For me personally, I wouldn't get a building and pest inspection done to present to owners. I'd let them get their own done. However, if there are any potential issues, I'd get them fixed. Now, your tenant should have told you about that. Your property manager should be telling you about that. Or if you can get in and get through the property, you should be able to spot if there are any issues. Anything leaking, if you've owned the property for a long time, you'll know about these because someone would have said anything, or they are going to be visually able to see them if you go in and go through the property. So yes, get those little things fixed and addressed, but I wouldn't worry about a building and pest. I'd let the potential purchasers go in and get one for themselves. The next, is there any advice on what paperwork I should prepare in advance to minimize capital gains tax and reduce costs? I bought this property 20 years ago and haven't kept track of expenses, and unfortunately don't have any of the original paperwork on any of it, as I thought I'd move into it one day. That is a huge issue. Now, you need to, when you sell, essentially you need to establish a cost base. And the cost base is the original price you paid for it. Let's just say $300,000. Those purchasing costs, which are, stamp duty, buyer's agent fee, whatever on top of it. And then your costs to sell, agent fee, advertising. So 200 might be an additional, say 50 grand. So your cost base there is 250 grand. You sell at 600, then you've made a capital gain of 600 minus your cost base. Your issue that you have here is that if you don't have any of that paperwork, your cost base might only just be your purchase price, which means you pay capital gains tax on 600 minus 200 on $400,000. You've owned it for 20 years, so you keep 200 grand tax free, and then you're going to pay capital gains tax on $200,000. What you can do, and if you can remember 20 years ago, is if you get in touch with that solicitor or conveyancer that you used to purchase the property, look, they might have some available. You can also talk to your accountant to see if there is a potential for you to average or estimate those sorts of costs, if that is available, if that is legal to do. Not saying that it is. I'm saying that that's something you need to have a really good conversation with your accountant. But again, if you haven't kept records for 20 years, there are ramifications to that sort of laziness, no offense. In here, it is paying capital gains tax on that. So the good thing is that capital gains tax is 27%. So it's not much money. And if it was 50 grand that you're missing out on your cost base, that could be 10, 15, 20 grand savings. So not the end of the world, but I would look through old emails. I would look and speak to the old solicitor to see if there's anything you can put together there. The good thing is you will have the sale costs, so you will have those sorts of things to make up and put on the cost base, but that would be about it. I appreciate the question. That is, any tips that you share would be really helpful, thankful. So look, as I said, what I want to do is identify who are the good agents to sell with and who are the good agents to buy with. I don't want to be giving this to one of the agents that are good to buy with. Those are the guys that are popping up and doing a lot of the sales, a lot of the high volume. You want to go to the agents that are potentially lower volume and run the process. So you need to be watching or have watched that market for a few months to see who those players are. Also look back and see in the last 12 months who has been the most 12 months to see what agents have been selling your type of product in that particular area. Then again, from there, yes, do your research, go in and see them, how they operate their open houses, how do they rock up, how do they greet you, how do they speak to you, do they follow up? From there, you will definitely get a list of 2 to 3 agents. When you do those 2 to 3 agents, I suggest you booking them in. If they come and see you at your home or at that property, I would suggest booking them in. You book one at 11 and you book at one at 11:30. You tell the agent that you book at 11 that they've got 35 minutes so that when they leave, they see the other agent, they know that they have competition. And I am always upfront. We say, yeah, I've got another agent coming in front of this. So they know that they need to work for it, right? They go out of that property, they see that there's another agent coming in. The agent coming in says there's another property going out. They go, okay, I've actually got to work hard for this one. The next would be making sure the property is vacant and well presented. It's photographed. You pay for the photography. You get an agent that is a trained professional to sell it. There's a floor plan. There's pictures, and it's listed on the domain portal. So that gives you your best opportunity. Your agent's going to also be the best person to tell you if it should be an auction or, private treaty campaign. I can't tell you off the top of my head for Seaford. However, you just want to make sure that they run that full campaign over the couple of weeks. One thing you want to have a think about as well is if you need to give your tenant time to vacate and notice, that could be 90 days. And we're currently in, and I'm recording this on the 22nd of October, 2025. So if you need to give them time, this might be something that you plan to bring to market February next year so that the tenant is vacated, so that the property presents well, so that the property, is in its best light, and we're selling in a warmer month, which is tick, 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 tick. So that would be my recommendations. Unfortunately, you haven't kept the documentation. Not much we can do. Discussion for your accountant, but best of luck. Hopefully there's a bit of wisdom or a few things in there, and best of luck with the sale. As always, guys, if you got value from this, would appreciate it if you subscribed. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments. If you can hit subscribe, that would be fantastic. Trying to get to 2,500 by the end of the year. Not sure if I'll get there or not, but we'll see. And as always, I'll see you guys tomorrow.